I went to work in New York to do the red carpet for the 50th anniversary of Saturday Night Live. I had a little bit of time before I had to start work, so I went and hit up 7 record stores in the city and in Brooklyn. I'll show you a bit about my job and the stores that I hit up and the records that I found. If you stick around to the end of the video, I'll show you some footage of my brief interaction with Paul McCartney. I got hired by NBC to help with the live graphics for the red carpet of the Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary special. I always jump at the chance to get a job in New York City as I live in LA. I love New York City. It's a crazy city. I enjoy working there. I wish I worked there more. There's something magical about working over at 30 Rock. The history of that place, all the shows that were there and all the shows that are still currently there. It's great. I would move to New York if I could go work on one of those shows for a while, at least trade spots with someone. That's the control room with the director, the assistant directors, and the producers in the back row. Us graphics people are in another room down the hall.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Roll spot box.
3 to music.
Ready to X and silver.
1 music. 4, 3 to X. 2, 1.
And roll X, dissolve to X, roll 7, track silver.
25 to green.
And dissolve to 9, go 9. And ready pink,
20.
and roll pink, dissolve to pink. 7 to push.
15.
And push. 7 to push. Push.
10 to green. 9.
And
8.
push.
7. 6 to green. 5.
And push.
4.
Ready green.
3, 2.
This was a fun one. The big concert on the Friday night was the Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary music performances. It was at Radio City Music Hall, which is right across the street from 30 Rock. I tried really hard to get tickets, but I couldn't. I had no luck getting tickets. I knew a guy who was doing graphics for that concert. He was there for like 4 days in advance of the show, but he couldn't get me tickets. We were able to see them rehearse a bit with our monitors, and I saw Nirvana playing with Post Malone, and I really wish I could have been there. I haven't even seen the show yet. I was gonna wait till I had some time and I'll watch all that. But I watched Post Malone rehearse with Nirvana, and I watched Jack White rehearse. Before I had to work, I had some time to hit up some record stores, and these are the stores that I went to and the records that I got. A1 Records. I did not find anything at this store. If you're one of those diggers that love to get on the floor and dig for hours and hours in small, cramped spaces, this is the store for you. They had as much stock on the floor as they did in the shelves. It was pretty overwhelming. Definitely a digger's paradise. I didn't have 4 hours to spend looking for records, so I was out of there fairly quick. This is Ergot Records. A few people referred this store to me, and so it was my second stop in Manhattan. I did find one record at Ergot, Mick Farren's Mono the Carnivorous Circus. This is a really interesting, weird reissue on the Psycho label. This reissue came out in 1984, but this is a 1970 LP. Mick Farren was the lead singer of The Deviants. The Deviants were a UK psych garage band that had 3 really good albums. If you like The Deviants, you're probably gonna have to pick this one up. It's pretty similar. Twink played drums on this album after he left The Pretty Things. The Deviants were on tour in 1969 of the west coast of the United States, and they basically fired Mick Farren. Even though he was the leader of the band and the lead singer and the creative force, they fired him. So he didn't finish the tour. He went back to the United Kingdom, where the record label informed him that he still had one album to record. So he went back to England and recorded this album. It's half music, it's half spoken word. It's got some moments. It's not great, but it's kind of where maybe the Deviants were evolving to. He was an artist and a writer. He wrote for magazines, rock magazines, and he wrote many books. He held an honorary patch from the Hells Angels. I guess one of the people doing the spoken word here is a Hells Angels member. He died in 2013 when the Deviants were doing a reunion tour. He died on stage. He had a heart attack on stage, and he died then. Everyone told me to hit up Academy Records on 12th Street. So I got into a lift and went to Academy Records, but apparently I went to the wrong one and they dropped me off at the 18th, the one I was told I shouldn't go to. It was small, it was a nice store, lots of books, even more CDs, and a good selection of records, especially classical, in the back. I found on the wall the Pixies pod. This Kim Deal started this band. Kim is the bass player of the Pixies, and she was becoming increasingly frustrated that her songs weren't getting chosen for the albums. So in 1989, she teamed up with the guitar player of Throwing Muses. They cut a demo song and sent it to 4AD, the record label, and they immediately signed them. They have a great cover of Happiness is a Warm Gun, a Beatles track. If you think it would sound like the Pixies, you're wrong. It doesn't. Someone, and I would agree, says this album has more in common with Nirvana In Utero than Pixies' Surfer Rosa. I prefer The Last Splash as my favorite Pixies album, but I'm glad to add this to my collection. Pod, 1990.
Lying with his eyes while his hands are busy working overtime. A soap impression of his wife, which he ate and donated to the National Trust.
Academy Records on 12th Street. I got back in the lift from Academy on 18th and I went to the one on 12th Street. This one definitely was better for me, exactly as people had pointed out. They had some jazz and grunge on the wall, right as you walk in the door. The first record I saw when I walked in the door was this one, and I took it home. The Pixies. This is the Bossa Nova from 1990. This came out 2 months after this came out. This came out in August 1990. This came out in May. That's 3 months. This is the stronger album of these two, but The Last Splash is better than this one. This is their third album. I prefer the second album, Doolittle. One of their singles from this album, Valoria, is my favorite track on this album. Years after this came out, I saw them in 2014 at the Hollywood Bowl. This is a good album, for sure. Next up was Human Head in Brooklyn. This store is probably the #1 recommended record store in New York, at least for me. Of the people, for the people I know who are in the know, they tell me to go to Human Head. The owner, his wife is from Brazil, so he goes to Brazil all the time and picks up really good rarities. And I've been there a few times and bought a few records from them. They have a really big wall, lots of stuff. I didn't see anything great on the day that I went, but there was a Brazilian on the wall that filled a hole in my collection. Caetano Veloso's Transa. This came out in 1972. It is his 6th album. He was exiled in Europe when this album came out. It is considered one of his better albums. It has a really intricate cover that turns into a table that I'm not gonna do, but maybe I'll show a photo of what it looks like. He's pretty much Caetano Veloso pretty much started the Tropicalia movement in 1968 in Brazil. Here's a great video talking about Tropicalia albums. So many great albums to pick up. I'm trying to get all of those plus a lot more. Caetano Veloso's Transa.
There's nothing you can show me from behind the wall. Show me from behind the wall. Come on and show me from behind the wall. Show me from behind the wall. Why don't you show me from behind the wall? Show me from behind the wall. Come on and show me from...
Billy's Record Salon. This was the 2nd most suggested record store for me to visit in Manhattan. Best thing about it, when I at least walked in, is they had a bathroom. They had a great selection of jazz, though I haven't been buying much jazz this past year or year and a half. I have been on a mission for about 20 years to collect 1 copy of each Blue Note 1500 series to the 4400 series. Doesn't need to be an OG. It could be a 70s Black B. It could be a 66, 67 Liberty. I'm about 75% of the way of finding all these records. I do have a list of the 25% that I'm missing. So if you think you might have doubles, PM me and I'll send you that list. So what I found on the wall there was Gravy Train by Lou Donaldson. This came out in 1962. It's a good album, but not a great album. This is a 1973 Black B pressing. It's got the Black B and it's got the RVG and stereo stamped in the dead wax. Good, not great, glad to have it. Captured Records from Brooklyn. This is the 3rd most requested shop that I should visit. Really big store, big wall of collectible items from when you walk in the front door, over the desk, all the way towards the back. They even had a psychedelic section. I love when they have a psychedelic section. There wasn't really anything in there that I wanted, but I did pull 2 things from the wall. This first one is Rita Lee's 2nd solo album. This is 1986. This is from 1986, and the pronunciation of this album,
Hoje é o primeiro dia do resto de sua vida.
these 86, 80, 82, 83, 85, and 86 reissues on Polydor are great value for the money. Those late 60s and early 70s OGs, oftentimes, they didn't sound very good. They were recorded correctly, but the pressing was not very desirable, and these reissues make up for that. Rita Lee was one of the original members of the Os Mutantes and is widely considered the queen of Brazilian rock. Her second solo album from 1972 is pretty much an Os Mutantes album. In 1972, Polydor would not release a second Mutantes album within the same year, so the band went and recorded this album featuring Rita Lee on all the vocals and released it in her name as her solo project. This was the last album that she would record with Os Mutantes. While they were recording this album, they also were recording the Os Mutantes' fifth album, titled
Os Mutantes e seus Cometas no País dos Bauretes,
which was released months before this album came out in 72. This Rita Lee album is super creative, like Os Mutantes on steroids. It features great guitar work. It's funky at times. Her voice is perfect for this. My mother would not like this album. The cover makes her look ugly, but she was not ugly. This album would be considered psychedelic rock, or I guess more appropriately, pop psych. Number 2 from the Captured Wall is Elf. This is their first of 3 albums. It's on the Yellow Epic label. Ronnie James Dio was the founder and singer of this band. They were like a blues-based rock band. They have 3 albums. I have the last 2, just not this one, so I'm glad to pick this up. The cover doesn't look that great, but the vinyl is perfect. His credit on this album was Ronald Padavona. That's his real name. It doesn't say Ronnie James Dio on here. The producers were the bass player and the drummer of Deep Purple. This is definitely blues-based hard rock. Dio's voice is really great on this album. In fact, if it wasn't for his voice, this would be standard blues rock. But with his voice, it elevates it a bit. It's fun blues, really good guitar. The second album is better, in my opinion. I left Captured Records, and as I was leaving and went onto the sidewalk, I noticed 2 guys standing there deciding if they were going to come in, and I recognized him. It was Ken Micallef, who has his own YouTube channel, and Steve Guttenberg, the Audiophiliac, who also has his own YouTube channel. I think he has like 150,000 subscribers. I watched these guys' videos over the years. I took a photo and did a video selfie with them. It was a nice moment. They were very friendly and appreciative of the conversation. Steve's cost me lots of money over the years, and Ken and I disagree on Good Jazz, here is links to their channels.
I am in Brooklyn, and look who I run into. Oh my God. Great. Thank you, guys. Oh, thank you.
Academy Annex in Brooklyn. As I left Captured Records and bumped into Ken Micallef and Steve, Ken asked me what I was looking for, and I told him more psych and rock this time. He suggested going to the Academy Annex. So I went, and from Captured, I walked over there. It was a good recommendation. The store was great. It was big. It had a psychedelic section. The first thing that I noticed when I got there was this introspection on the wall. This is the band End. The album is called Introspection. Cool mirror type cover. It's got some wear. It says it's a promo. I've never seen this in the wild. It's a super, super rare album. And I just recently picked up an OG UK, and I posted about that on Instagram. That is the UK OG. This is the US on London. It has some condition issues, but I'll take it and hopefully get an upgrade of this sometime. It's super rare and hard to find. It's more pop psych. It's typical of 1968 UK pop psych, but this was 1969. If you like SF Sorrow by the Pretty Things or the Zombies, what they put out in 68, you're probably going to like it. It didn't sell well. Glenn Johns was the engineer, the mixing engineer. Bill Wyman of the Rolling Stones was a producer. I don't love it, but I like it. The more I listen to this album, the more I'm liking it. I'm now on my 4th time spinning it, and it just gets better and better. I really want the German version. It's got like this colored alternative cover. I guess I'm missing the UK mono because mine's a UK stereo, and this is a stereo as well. Fun fact, the 70s bootleg Rolling Stones Miscellaneous incorrectly lists the 2 songs from this album, Loving, Sacred Loving, and Shades of Orange, as Stones songs and not as the band The End.
Don't take me for a ride. Don't take me. Don't take me for a ride. Don't take me.
The last album that I picked up was this 1968 special dealer demonstration disc, promo disc from the Philips record label. This has Blue Cheer, The Hello People, and H.P. Lovecraft. It's got 2 songs by each of them. While we're on the subject of Blue Cheer, I'm just going to say it. Blue Cheer was the first heavy metal band of all time, and not Black Sabbath. I can't think of a Hello People song. I don't really know them. Based on the cover of their first album, I think I'm going to add them to my want list. Gold label, 1968 demo promoting each of their band's first 2 albums. The posters, while we're talking about H.P. Lovecraft, this poster right here is Bill Graham number 92. Procol Harum was the headlining act, and Pink Floyd and H.P. Lovecraft was the openers. This poster is from November 9th, 10th, and 11th of 1967. Pink Floyd was touring the West Coast of the United States at this time. They had work permit issues in October of 67. So if you see any posters advertising Pink Floyd in Los Angeles or San Francisco in October of 1967, they did not perform at those shows. The posters were made and they were advertised, but they did not play any of those shows, but they played this show. No audio recording is available of this show, and Syd Barrett at that point in Pink Floyd was very much in a bad way. And now this poster from 1968, Blue Cheer, played at this show. This was 1968. Jeff Beck was the headliner. Pink Floyd and Blue Cheer were the openers. It was July 26th and 27th at the Shrine Auditorium in Los Angeles. I have the original poster for the show right there. I have a handbill that looks just like that, a smaller version of the poster, and then I have an alternative handbill. I wish I could have been at that show. That's it. Those are my finds in New York City on that short little window I had to go record shopping. If you're still watching, thank you. Now this is my Paul story. Well, before the Paul story, the last time I saw Paul McCartney was back in October 8th, 2016 at Coachella for the Desert Trip Festival in the desert. It was nicknamed Oldchella because of all the old people that were performing. Roger Waters, The Who, Rolling Stones, Bob Dylan, Paul McCartney, Neil Young. It was an amazing weekend. Okay, my Paul story. On Saturday, we were rehearsing all day for the red carpet part of the Saturday Night Live anniversary. At one point, the director called for a 5-minute break, which really means 15-minute break from when you leave your seat until you come back and you start rehearsing again. We've been bugging this staff graphics person we've been working with all week to take us up to the Saturday Night Live set, because I wanted to do like a video selfie live from Saturday night. It's Vinyl Viper or something like that for this very video. She finally agreed and said it was a good time because we knew Saturday Night Live, they had gone to lunch. We ran upstairs and walked into the stage, but there were lots of people kind of blocking the aisle. We really couldn't get close to the stage, and as I looked over to the music part, I realized that Paul was on stage doing some sort of mouth exercises for his voice. I pulled out my camera and started recording. As soon as I did, I was instructed to, with a hand signal, to put the phone down. So I did, but we almost got about 20 feet from Paul.
5, 6. 7.
After that, he chatted with the tech people for a little bit, and then my SNL coworker said that we need to get back down so we're not late, and she was right. So we headed back down to watch the rehearsal from our little graphics room.
Is there a viewing space for this crew to go watch the show, like after?
As we headed down, I ran into my friend John, who lives in Los Angeles and does all the red carpet shows that I do. And he's a big Beatle fan. He's got a butcher cover, Second State, that we've talked a lot about. And I told him that Paul was upstairs just about to rehearse. I said, go up to those steps. He ran. And it was so funny. He was like a little kid. And he's like an older gentleman, probably 63, 64, 65. And it was so funny to see him run. He told me later when he got there, he felt uncomfortable pulling out his phone and recording, but he did. But then he stopped and he just aimed it at the floor, and he was able to get about 2 minutes of audio of Paul's rehearsal. At the end of this video, which is in about 30 seconds, I'll play the 2 minutes of the audio that he recorded. He told me the 10 minutes that he got to watch Paul record for Paul to rehearse made his weekend. I was very glad that he got to experience that and kind of jealous that I did not. This is my Vinyl Finds video for New York. Please like and subscribe. Now here is the 2 minutes of audio my friend recorded of Saturday's rehearsal of Paul McCartney on the Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary show. Enjoy.